All right. What are your name and pronouns?
Hey, my name is HeroGirl. I'm your friendly local neighborhood hero tuber. You can go ahead, just call me Hero. I use she, her pronouns
Awesome. And how do you identify?
with a magnifying glass.
Understandable.
It's usually the little icon that the game provides you. Usually there's a little prompt.
And can you tell me a bit about your VTuber model or persona?
Yeah, it's literally just me. This is a cheaper, kind of a toggle-based model. I got it from someone who's on Twitter named Azuyani. Her coffee, her shop, her commissions, they're currently closed. I don't know if she packed it all in or what, but the model that I'm using has been discontinued. I got it for 34 CAD, and it was a cheaper model. Taysa introduced it to me when we were looking at ways to upgrade my streaming stuff, and it's been great. It's been a nice, affordable way to get in there and just have something that feels like an actual VTuber. I respect PNG tubing. I think PNG tubing does a lot of great things. But my goal specifically for VTubing involved having a live 2D model, so I'm very happy that I had that opportunity.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you got to do that. I love your model too, by the way. Super cute. I love it.
Thank you.
How did you ensure that your model represented you?
Well, like I said, it's literally just me, and it comes with a few different toggles. The toggles that I have on here, they're based on different alters that I have. So I've got a kitty fairy one. I've got one that's got angel wings and a halo, and the color scheme is a little different. I can switch between those just kind of at will because they are toggles that you can hotkey. But for the most part, I just wanted something that looked kind of like my God. I just wanted something that looked like me.
Yeah. And you said, I may have heard you wrong. You say alters?
Yes, I am.
So you have DID.
Plural, so
Oh.
yeah. Well,
Okay.
no, I don't necessarily call it DID because the DID kind of has trauma implications, and that's not necessarily
Gotcha.
the case for all plurality. I
Yeah.
don't even know if that's exactly what my scenario is.
Okay.
But I do have alters, and I wanted a way to express that if there was a situation where I wanted to present with alters. I don't really use those all that much. Just kind of the case of I am someone who likes presenting, and that's not really the case with the other sides of myself. So for that one, my toggleable model was really convenient.
Gotcha.
But for me, so one of the things I really wanted to get into with this interview, I know this is an interview about identity as being portrayed through gender, as being expressed through gender and gender expression. But for me, it's really less about gender expression and more about my expression of who I am as an entertainer and as an artist. And when I started this, I went in knowing that I wasn't going to know who exactly I was to start with in terms of what sort of streaming I want to do, what sort of videos I want to create, what is my goal here for trying to entertain people and building my following. And I really just wanted to go in there with, okay, we're going to go in with a base model. We're going to go here with not a lot of flash. We're not going to have all the horns and the wings and the cat ears and all that flash and style. We're going to go in there with something really base vanilla. And then we're going to build up from there. Almost like a, kind of like a Pokemon. You go in there, level 1 Charmander, you come out level 100 boss.
So having different ways that you can customize to make yourself more comfortable depending on the day. I'm not super familiar with plurality, to be honest. I was a little bit into studying the intricacies of DID, but I'm not familiar with plurality, which is contrary. So I apologize for my misunderstanding.
It's okay. No, that has nothing to do with DID. The plurality was a small part of this, but I very quickly realized that I'm not really someone who uses her alters as a lot of streaming stuff, so it really doesn't ever come out. I still mark myself as a plural VTuber because I am plural, and I was always going to be open about that fact, but it's not really a part of my brand or my identity as a streamer or my entertainer.
Okay, I got you. All right, that makes sense then. Thank you so much for clarifying that. I'm sorry again for the if it was any insensitive question there.
I'm not offended.
I appreciate that. And so then, what drew you to VTubing, and do you find it rewarding?
I do find VTubing rewarding. But it's rewarding in the sense that it's rewarding to stream. It's rewarding to stream and to get out there, to be able to have an experience that's sharing with an online audience. I was streaming Madden 06 recently, which is a very strong comfort game for me. It's a game I played a lot of when I was in high school and college. And being able to share that with friends, having them sit in on chat and being able to comment and make jokes with me as we were going, to root through the experience, have that experience with other games that I've played, that made streaming very rewarding, and it solidified the idea that streaming is something I want to be doing a long time.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. It's always good to hear that somebody has had like a good experience with streaming, and especially VTubing. So I appreciate the input on that.
Right. Now, the key here, though, is that I don't think VTubing in and of itself really has anything to do with that. I would still be having the same experience, I think, if I was using a face cam or anything like that. It's just a matter of exposure comfort in a way. I like being able to have this model, this avatar that I can use to represent me without having to show like my actual state of affairs. Like I don't have to dress up. I don't have to make sure that my lighting is good. I don't have to put in the effort to like do full face makeup or anything like that. I don't have to like put on a production. All of the production is handled digitally. So, no matter how I'm feeling, if I'm feeling schlumpy or I'm feeling gross, or if I just want to go full gremlin mode and wear nothing but a tank top, then it's okay, because I still have my avatar and she's still dressed up. She's still got her hoodie. She still has, nice straight hair and stuff like that. It's a convenient way to be able to put up a quality production without necessarily having to go through a lot of the pre-production work.
Yeah. Honestly, I respect that a lot. It's kind of actually why I started out VTubing. Not even for the identity thing, but more just like, I want to hide behind a model that always looks good and not have to worry about my makeup. I did start out as a face cam streamer, so, putting makeup on was a hassle when I had to take like an hour every single time, and then having to show my face on camera is completely nerve-wracking. So I get where you're coming from there. The production's just so much higher, but during on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then there's also just like the anonymity part about it, right? It's like if you were in a theoretical universe where you become a bigger entertainer, where you become a bigger known personality, and you're out just walking on the street, even if like your real name is out there, and you're not really doing the whole complete VTuber alias, no one knows Bruce Wayne is Batman type thing, there's still a comfort and a security in knowing that most people aren't going to know you by face. So, and that's another nice perk of it.
I actually think my partner also mentioned something similar like that yesterday, and it was kind of something I didn't really think about, right? I was talking about my partner or somebody else, but they're mentioning that like it's odd because like as a VTuber, like you could just be walking around the street and people could talk about you, right? As like about your VTuber model, but they would have no idea that character, the person who plays that character, is standing right next to them listening to them talk about you. It's so
they don't know that she's
strange.
They don't know that she's in the corner sipping her drink. But like, yeah, exactly. I was actually just thinking about the flip side of that, right? I've started watching a lot of Northern Lion clips and stuff like that. I'm really entertained by his stuff. He's been a really big inspiration for how I want to conduct myself as a streamer and how comfortable I am with just opening myself up. And if I ever saw him out there in the wild, maybe just like shopping at Costco, I'm pretty confident that he would be fairly cool with me just walking and being like, "Hey, NL, big fan, appreciate you. My wife introduced. Can I get like a quick autograph or whatever to bring back to her?" He'd be like, "Okay, sure, cool, whatever." But for me, even though I would appreciate something like that for what it is, it's not something I would want to happen just like out of the blue. Because then I know my fight or flight would be triggered into like, okay, what's going to go on here? How long do I shake hands? How do I make the quick exit? How do I show gratitude and support without being like, okay, but I'm also in full on coyote mode. I want to get out of here right now.
And there's also the issue of like feeling like you need to like constantly put on like a facade whenever you're in public then, because at any moment someone could recognize you and immediately make a judgment on you based on how you're acting off camera. And it's kind of scary, It's kind of scary.
Pictures leak on the internet of HeroGirl dumpster diving like a possum.
Hey, I'd pay to see that. That sounds kind of funny. Now I'm imagining you as a possum. Is that weird? Pause some HeroGirls, yeah.
Look, I've had weirder personas.
And more power to you, right? I mean, I'm literally a trash panda. I can't judge.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you share some of the highs and lows of your journey being transgender or gender nonconforming in the VTubing space?
Being VTubing has just like had almost no overlap with being transgender for me. Like virtually none of it. If I were to talk about the highlights, I can talk about how Claire Fluffle did something like this just last year where she got together a lot of trans VTubers, talked to them about a lot of the same things that are being brought up here. A lot of the how does your model help you like feel euphoria? How do you express yourself through your model and all this other stuff? And the biggest highlight was being included in that, but not necessarily the interview itself, even though it was a lovely interview and I scuffed my end horribly. But the fact that I got to meet a couple of more people. I did get introduced to Claire that way. I did get a chance to follow some of the stuff that she does. She does great videos on both Kirby, on Fire Emblem. She has a podcast where she reviews DreamWorks movies with some of her friends. But I also got to meet Curio Nebrius, who is a friend of mine, a bit more on the cruder and looter side, but still someone I do consider a friend. I got to get to know Lila Morningstar a lot better, someone I consider a bestie. And it's really just more of the networking opportunity it provided because someone put out the search signal of, hey, I want to talk to someone who fits into this demographic, and coalescing them all into a single server, and you get a chance to see them, to meet them, to talk to them. And, you know, at a time where I was still relatively new to streaming and still in that trying to reach out to people and get to know them, it was a great way to get those first impressions and to make my own.
Oh yeah, so then it's more like having a bit of a niche within a niche to kind of make it easier to network or you know, talk with other people and kind of explore a bit more, right?
Exactly. And at the same time remind myself that just because we are within that niche doesn't necessarily mean that we're compatible at all, or that we're going to be similar. You know, in the sense that people are people and everyone's always going to be different regardless of whatever similarities you have. Just realizing, these are just people I do not want to interact with at all. Or even something just more benign of like, you know, I like this person, but the vibes just, we just don't click, especially when it comes to what I want to create.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of something that some people kind of don't realize going into VTubing is, like, the VTubing community is not enough of a niche now. It's quite large. And I talk to Tessa about this quite often, actually. The niche of VTubing is quite large now, that there's like so many communities within the community. And even then, the communities within the VTubing community, you may not even get along with them. Like, I have a few friends that are trans VTubers, and I myself am a trans VTuber, right? But I also have, like, the majority of my close friends are cisgender. That's just what it is, right? It's like a matter of like the interests that you share, the way you enjoy expressing yourself in your daily life, you know? It's more than just, oh, well, I have this label that I put on myself and that's how it is. And so it's really interesting. Yeah, because the entire time that I've been interviewing people this month, it's been vastly different experiences and stories. And everyone has their own things to say about how VTubing has helped, or maybe it doesn't help them at all. You're not the first person, trust me.
God. And like nothing exemplifies that more than when I tried a few different strategies to network, to try and find collaborators, to try and get things together. There was, I wanted to say it was last year, that I organized a VTuber Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. Just like, you know,
that sounds like fun.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. You know, we put out the signal. We get VTubers together. I think we had like 7 or 8 of them, and we just do a ladder style single elimination tournament. That's all there was to it. But I made this mistake of making it a general Twitter call, of being like, hey, I'm looking for people. If you're into this thing, go ahead and message me, and we'll set you up. And I did try to do my due diligence of like, okay, what's the vibe of this person? Do I think that I'm going to be putting anyone in danger if I include them or anything like that? And not only that, but a couple of the other instances where I tried that strategy of just like putting out a general call, even in the space of my own Discord server. Unfortunately, there were just people where, again, the vibe just wasn't clicking. Maybe I like this person as a person, and I enjoy our conversations, but they're not someone that I want to do the thing with. And at some point, you have to grow that backbone and be like, hey, okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to include you in this project. Or better still, having the gumption to actually reach out to people individually in the first place, put yourself make yourself vulnerable to rejection, and reach out to the people that you do want to include, rather than just being like, hey, if anyone would like to, join my thing, that'd be nice. It's okay if you don't, though.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because that's actually a pretty similar experience. So when I originally was looking for other transgender VTubers, I was primarily looking for people to kind of join me on my panel at Offkai, right? So I was like, I need to find other people, who might be interested. But I was expecting it to stay within my own, circle. I didn't expect it to get out there. But then I had tons and tons of transgender individuals like replying to the post, being like, oh yes, I'm a trans VTuber. This is what I am. This is what my experience is. And I'm like, oh my god. But then I ended up turning that chance of like, oh, well, I was originally looking for a much smaller group and people that I might know a bit better. But then I was like, you know what? I could turn this into an opportunity for everyone, right? I could make it so that way I actually make a full video on the topic that I want to discuss. And so that way everyone here gets their voices heard. So that's kind of why I ended up doing it, right? But originally, that original call was like, I don't know these people and I don't know who would be a good fit. So why not take these experiences they have and give them another way to have their voices heard? That way everyone gets a chance.
Yep. When I did that original call for the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, one of the replies I got was like, I want to say maybe 19, 20 years old, like old enough to be an adult, but young enough to be at the point where it's like, wait, no, okay, this is in an age bracket where I don't actually want to like interact with
You would not
person.
have known that before, though. You would not have known that before.
No. It's something I didn't think about, because again, my personal connections were lacking, and so I was willing to just try and throw out a larger net. And when you throw out that net, you're not always gonna get back the trouts that you want. Sometimes you do get a few bottle caps.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the feeling whenever you see like the looking for new friends, or VTuber friends looking for VTuber friends, VTuber support chain, like nonsense like that, right? And the reason why it's bait is because at the end of the day, you're not looking for real connections there. There's no real connection, and you have no idea if you'll actually be buddy-buddy with the people that end up replying. You can't guarantee that kind of thing, And so that's why things that are more specific, like see VTuber support chains that get more specific, like VTubers who are this, and this, right? We'll get along if you're this, and this. Then it's like, okay, well, I either I don't cover these categories, or I do cover these categories, and I might be a good fit. Then I'll drop my stuff, right? But then at the end of the day,
yeah, it's great that you bring that up, because that was exactly the next step that I started taking with my networking. Is once I realized the scope of just trying to throw out that big net, I tried to narrow down my focus, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna start looking for VTubers that play card games, the VTubers that play Magic, VTubers that are into like these things that I know I'm going to be streaming. And this time I was a lot more selective, and I was a lot more reconnaissance-y, scouty. Yeah, I was a lot more scouty with it. I started perusing Twitch. I started using those tags. Started looking for like, okay, let's go ahead and look up VTubers that play FF14, VTubers that play MTG. Make sure that they're in English. And even then, like narrowing down the field, it's still not enough to like find the right people. I found a couple of VTubers that play FF14, like of course, the anime avatars playing the anime MMO. Okay, very surprising, but it's still in a scenario where, okay, this person seems really abrasive, or this person is still doing the VTuber girlfriend loot tubing, which is like perfectly fine, but that's still not like the right vibe that I'm looking for and stuff like that. And just narrowing down that field, it really gives you an appreciation for the friends that you have already made. And what that's really done is it's helped me realize, okay, I think I'm done trying to look outward and trying to like make those connections. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and reevaluate the connections I have currently built in the past 2-ish years that I've been streaming, and let's start building around that instead. I've been streaming since I want to say June of 2022, because that was after my big move across the country to live with both of my partners. But I have been into content creation since about 2011, 2012. Yep, it was originally focused primarily on Magic the Gathering. I got hired by a fan website that was doing a podcast to write articles for them. The host retired, and I took up podcasting, and I hosted that show for a good 250-ish weekly episodes, I'm gonna say. Yeah, it was like around that time. It was a fantastic experience. I did regular interviews with people high up in the community. There were people on like rules committees and other personalities who would write articles for the Wizards of the Coast mothership and stuff that we got to talk to. I had a co-host who helped me out with the editing. Thank God for Mr. Calvin, because when I tried to do audio editing, I did the what was the audio program back then? It was Audacity. That's what it was. Okay, it was Audacity. Yeah. I had to teach myself Audacity in order to edit the sound files, and like I got fairly okay at it, but it was so bad for the ADHD, because you're just watching like the little wavelengths go back and forth. So my co-host took over, and that was fantastic. But throughout the whole podcasting stint, I was trying a bunch of harebrained schemes to try and like grow the show and to explore other avenues of entertainment and creation. So that was when I started streaming. I started trying to stream Magic gameplay and recording videos and posting them on YouTube. A lot of those which are still available. They're still available on like the original Patreon that I started. In fact, I've had that Patreon for so long I might be grandfathered into the original payout clause, which I need to take a look at. But the streaming thing was just something that I've been trying to do for like the better part of a decade, but because of the technology limit of that, you need to have like the stronger computer, you have to be able to have the stronger connection and stuff like that to really make it a viable thing, that I couldn't keep up with it. Streaming wasn't a thing that I really thought about really getting into again until I want to say leading into like the 2019, 2020s. At that point, I had already drafted the first copy of the book that I'm working on, my debut novel, Salvation, which I'm hoping to release sometime next year. And, in the back of my head, I'm thinking about, okay, what's my plan to market this book? What's my plan to, find the audience that are going to pay for this novel that I worked on? And the thing that just kept coming back in my head was, well, I really enjoyed streaming. I really enjoyed streaming. I can always build on that. And I kept falling back on that. But I hate the technology, and I hate the camera and the setup. So when Vtubing became the big thing, I was like, this is it. This is exactly what's going to help me get through to this, because I can't do like the disembodied voice thing. People need an avatar to latch onto, even if it's just like a picture. So even though I dragged my feet on it for like the next few years, I did slowly start accumulating the pieces. I did go with, okay, we're gonna go ahead, we'll just use my gamer tag. HeroGirls is the name I go with just because that was literally my gamer tag. I commissioned a PNG once I saw that one was on sale. I slowly commissioned a logo when I found a good recommendation for someone who got that. I got a good overlay. I started using that as like the bits and pieces. I would study all of the recommendation guides and like, here's how to build your audience, here's how to set up OBS, and here's all this. And I was so convinced that I could study my way into getting a successful audience from the get-go. Like, just absolutely convinced that if I did everything correctly, then I would not have to face the stain of failure.
I think all of us kind of believe that at one point is, if I just study hard enough, if I just do the numbers just right, then maybe it'll happen.
Exactly. If I learn how to play the game, then I will... Like, if you learn how to play chess, clearly that's all you need to do to be a good player, right?
Clearly. Just learn the rules, easy.
Yeah. And then I got to the point where I remembered, wait, at some point I actually have to like get this going. So my wife, who was incredibly patient with me and very helpful, helped me get the technology set up, because I am just such a boomer when it comes to like trying to get all this going. I'd done the studying, but I was just so gripped by the paralysis of the failure. But once I got going, then everything started, clicking and going forward. And then that winter, so I started July, I'm gonna say June or July 2022. I did my first couple of streams. Then I found Tessa, started talking to Tessa, scheduled some consultations.
Let's go.
Started figuring out a lot of stuff and got a lot of the tips. She helped me find my model. She gave me some pointers for like just increasing stream quality in terms of like, hey, you should probably go ahead and swap out some of these avatars so that way you're not using the copyright stuff. I think that was also her assistant Paradox at Pandora who offered that.
I'm familiar with them. Yes.
Yeah. Get the starting screen. Make sure that you're running it for a few minutes so that way Twitch can go ahead. It's just like helping me get a direction going. In terms of like, okay, I know all this stuff, but I don't know what to prioritize. I don't know what to work on. And then after that, I spent the whole year kind of like following her guidelines. Even if I wasn't taking the appointments anymore, I was still like following her and still following a lot of these guidelines that she set up and trying to like focus on a couple of things that I knew that I could stream well. I'd been doing the magic streaming thing for like, I want to say a full 6-7 months, and it did submit me some stuff, but it didn't really have like the audience thing that I was going for. I remember the day that we were Taste and I were talking about like what variety streaming was doing for me, and she said, "Yeah, people aren't really like coming in to watch you be a gamer." And I remember feeling so crushed by that because I'd been feeling pretty proud with what I'd been like. I just beaten Celeste, and that felt really difficult, and that meant a lot to me. But then you hear that and you're like, aww.
It sucks. But it really hits hard.
Yep. So the second half of that year was just trying to like figure out who I wanted to be as the streamer, still figuring out like the network stuff. And that was really, really difficult because I was still in the mindset of trying to like get this going. I felt a lot of self-imposed pressure to perform and to get the numbers, because if I can't get the numbers, then I'm not going to have an audience to sell this book that I'm really trying to work hard on. If I can't get like a bare minimum Twitch revenue, then I'm going to have trouble paying the small amount of bills that I still have. Even like my partners are doing an amazing job supporting me, but I still felt like this obligation to make sure that I could pay for like my $50-$60 bill that came in every month on my own. And that was really crushing until I managed to get to that point where I started to piece together exactly what it was I wanted to do. And a lot of that was, okay, why am I streaming in the first place? Yes, to sell the book, but also because it's fun and I like logging and sharing these experiences. So if I can just focus on that with the streams, then I'll be okay because I'm still having the fun with it. Maybe I'm not getting like the 50 member audience or anything like that, but it's fine because what I'm doing here is all I'm doing is live recording for projects that I want to work on and that I'm actually much more excited to do later on. Like right now, I'm doing a Palace of the Dead solo run challenge for FF14, and I'm streaming it and I'm having fun streaming it with an audience. But the goal here is less, okay, have the big audience, doing something that's going to attract an audience, and more, this is a video idea I have for later. And this is just me, using the streams as a way to capture the footage.
Yeah, exactly. God, I think it's kind of like this thing that like Tess has also kind of taught me too, is, not everything that you do needs to be just like streaming doesn't need to be the thing, right? You can use streaming as a tool, as like a means to improve other places in your content creation, right? Like using my Lego building streams to kind of have like as like B-roll in the back of like videos where I'm just chatting about something that I'm fucking excited to talk about, like just
exactly
using your streams as a method to make content creation for other platforms much easier. And I don't know, a lot has changed for me since meeting Tessa because she's given me such good advice like that. So I feel that one, because for you, streaming isn't just, oh, well, I'm streaming because I want to be a big streamer. It's I'm streaming because I want to sell this book, but also I'm streaming because I'm having fun, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it also just changes your mindset for what kind of audience you want, right? Like I always say, like it's the adage of the audience is a reflection of the streamer and the culture that they cultivate. And going back to that line that I dropped earlier about being a fan of Northern Lion and how he's influenced me, when I started watching this guy who's been streaming for like, I want to say 17 something years, like he's been on the internet for forever. He just says shit. Like he just says stuff that whatever crosses his mind, and it's somehow the greatest thing. It's the kind of the unhinged charisma that you can only get from having this experience of having streamed pretty much every day and gotten used to just being able to go off the cuff and ad-lib and spin that and evolve it. You can go on a 15-minute tangent about why the grocery carts were stuck in the Costco center, and it's fantastic. And it also made me realize, wait, that's right. I'm not here to like try and to appeal to the larger audience. I'm just trying to find freaks like me that are into like documenting 15 spreadsheets worth of stats in an old game that EA dropped off like 20 years ago.
I think for the next question, I'm going to skip that because I think you've pretty much in all of this like explained like how, you know, VTubing, not just VTubing, but like streaming in general has kind of helped you discover more about yourself. Unless there's more that you wanted to add to that question.
No, I'm feeling pretty satisfied with my response.
Okay, cool. Okay, I was like, I think the next question you already pretty much answered it without even realizing it. So I think I'm just gonna skip that one. I think I know a lot more about you and like how you discovered more about yourself, just having heard your whole journey. So.
Oh, that's the trick there, Jojo. I had this all planned. Like,
you planned it. You fooled me. I guess my last question for you. What would you say to somebody who was looking at VTubing as an option to being their truest self in content creation? Is there anything that you want to say to them?
I would ask them why. Before I give any sort of advice, I want to know the why of how come they're looking at VTubing, how come they're looking at streaming. Because I've had friends before that have said like they're kind of like thinking about it streaming or interesting, and it's just like more idle shower thoughts than anything else. I know that I had a lot of the same ideas of like, oh, it would be so nice to stream and to be popular. Like I just say stuff and all my friends think it's funny and all that. And I also want to gauge like how serious they are, because if it's just like idle shower thoughts, like just making conversation or anything like that, you know, I don't want to like autistically info dump like I have the past, what's it been, 40 minutes? Roughly 40 minutes about like experiences and tips and advice and all that. But at the same time, if it's something that they're seriously thinking about, I want to understand their reason for doing so. A lot of what I feel like these smaller and beginning streamers, I'm not talking about like, you know, the streamers who have managed to get like 1,000 followers on Twitch or anything like that. I mean like the small VTubers, the ones who are still like, you know, they keep saying they're pre-debut, but they have no actual plans for debut, or
they never actually go for it.
Yeah, they're just Twitter VTubers, or they like the aesthetic of the VTuber. They like having an avatar or something that they can do, like, or even just you know, maybe they just go on like VR and that's the extent of their VTubing. They don't actually make videos or something like that. And like all of that is completely fine. Like it's very gratifying to be like, this is me, this is my avatar, this is what represents me, even if it's not necessarily for a euphoria reason. It's just nice to have a personification of yourself. I think that's fine, but that's a very different thing from wanting to be an entertainer, from wanting to be an artist, from wanting to be a writer, a singer, a dancer, or anything else. When you want to do any of that for fun, that is also a forking branch. It's okay, you want to be a singer and you do it for fun and you're just doing some fun projects. Okay, that's going to be a very different goal and very different expectations to, I want to be the next AM Lee. I want to have like these good productions. I want to be able to put on concerts or anything like that. And any advice that I could give is gonna be predicated on what you want as a VTuber, as a streamer, as an artist. Because you can't apply a lot of the same things. You can't apply the hustle culture that gets required of a professional to someone who's just exploring themselves, so to someone who is curious and they want to try some things out, who's still trying to figure themselves out. My biggest folly, personally, was trying to act too much like a professional when I needed to give myself the grace and room to explore and grow and be okay with making a lot of the mistakes that professionals need to make in order to get to the quality that they're known for.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're the first person I've heard like kind of mention like really just thinking about it. I mean, obviously, the encouragement always to just to do something, right? If you're thinking about doing it, just do it, right? But then you ask the question of why do you want to do it? Because that'll vastly change the direction that you take with it. And it's just like something I have personally not even really thought about, and it's making me think quite a bit right now. I'm glad for that. Yes, thank you for helping me think. I often go bird brain. I just like, I'm sure 2 years ago myself, I'd be aghast to learn that nowadays I'm taking on huge projects and you know, pushing extra hours per week just to, you know, provide more entertainment in every way possible. But nowadays it's just like, well, this is what I love doing. You know, I like feeling busy. I like, you know, putting together big projects. I love, you know, networking with other creators and talking with people like you who have such interesting things to say and such interesting perspectives on the space, you know? Like, I don't know. I think 2 years ago, myself would never have understood it and could never have even fathomed the space or the headspace that I'm in currently, you know? It's so interesting.
So, like, here's the follow-up question for that, because I get a lot of that too. At one point, one of the things that I was doing regularly, and one of the things I want to get back to doing, is interviewing a lot of the other creatives live to talk about a lot of the ins and outs that come with being a professional creator. I used to call it like OC chat, and you know, hearing you talk about all of these big projects, you know, the size that this interview project has ballooned to is one, astonishing, and it's incredibly ambitious. So like, I want to applaud the ambition.
Thank you.
But at the same time, I also want to ask about like your capabilities, your bandwidth for being able to handle such a project. Because I know that with me personally, I've gotten into these projects where I just keep building on top of it, because I'm like, oh my god, this would be a great idea, and then we can expand it this way. Like, I can go ahead and take this video essay idea, and wait, hold on, we can go ahead and talk about this topic and this topic, and we can add those in, and then you get into the editing phase, and you're like, oh, this would be a great visual joke, and oh, I need footage of this specific thing. At what point do you remember that, you know, you have a deadline and you only have so many man hours to work and balance with other aspects of your life?
So that's the thing, is if you asked any of my friends, they'd tell you I'm overworking myself, right? And I'm sure to some extent I'm, you know, running myself thin. But thankfully, I do have, you know, a team behind me. I have my Melvin manager, and everyone that she gets me in connection with is always willing to help out. And so I think when it comes to this kind of thing, it's a matter of how much time are you willing to put into it? What are the resources that you have? And one of those resources that you might have is money, right? But you also might not have that resource. But having the resource of money can also dictate whether or not you can pay somebody else to help you with the workload, right? So I pay Tessa to help me with the workload, right? But if I didn't have Tessa, my time for this project would absolutely be doubled. Abso-fucking-lutely, right? And so you kind of have to just like manage your time in bite-sized amounts, right? I'm not doing more than 3 or 4 interviews per day. If I did more than that, I'd never be able to stream. I would barely be able to eat. I wouldn't be able to have any like free brain moments, right? Like it's incredibly difficult to like keep track of that much stuff, but it's rewarding in the end, and I'm willing to put in the hours. But at the same time, it's like, I can't say that I'm never, you know, running myself thin. I'm never, you know, overworking myself or putting too much on my plate. Like, admittedly, that's definitely the case, right? But I think what kind of helped me realize it was when putting together my debut, right? My March 20th debut this past year. I've already debuted before, but this is more like my re-debut, I guess. But it was a much, much bigger project. I spent almost
first debut. What about second debut?
Second debut? Yes, my first debut was a pretty small thing. It was all like assets that my partner made for me, and maybe like 5 people showed up, and it was a small little thing whenever I started out on YouTube originally. But then my big second debut was the one that just happened in March, and that took us almost a full year to do, and still there were things that could be better, things that needed more time, things that needed, there could have been more to make it better or advertise it better even. And so I guess doing that debut kind of helped me realize that there is so much more planning that goes into a single project. You could say, for example, right, going into a project like this where it's like, well, yes, I'm planning to interview a bunch of VTubers and make a video about being transgender in the VTubing space. However, you have to consider how much time do I have to divvy out to each, interview, right? And how many interviews am I capable of doing within the time frame? Or you could even say, how many interviews do I want to do? And given that number, how much time am I going to need for that project, right? And so it's a matter of...
You get into the editing, and then you get into the editing of that too, where it's like, okay, you've managed to accomplish and get a ton of footage, but how much of that is actually usable?
Exactly. And so that's where it's like, then it's like, do you have the resource of money, right? And so thankfully I have the resource of money, enough to like, not only hire Tessa, but also to hire an editor to help me to like half the damn workload. However, I still have the issue of after each interview, I still need to, go into CapCut myself and cut it down and get to the meat of the interview, And so that's where, I have to put it up on myself to take care of it. Same goes for if I want to do a highlights video, right? Of like all my best moments on stream. I'm still going to have to go in and put the markers in throughout the stream, but also go in and cut up where the markers are at to where it makes sense, and then send it to my editor to finally edit it to make it funny, right? And so it's like, how much of my personal time do I have to dedicate to the project? And how many other things are going on at the same time that I'm working on this project? Am I still gonna be streaming? Am I gonna wanna have time with friends, family? Am I gonna wanna have time, to just sit down and read and relax? Do I have another big project I'm working on? Perhaps I have other obligations that I've promised to somebody else, maybe even a job, right? And so then it's a matter of, I need to, scheduling, right? And so I've gotten more into properly scheduling myself. Now I use a proper Google Calendar and I schedule every single bit of my time. And not only that, I give myself time, but then I add even more time to that, so that way I have room for failure. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, that's match. I'm a professional. I know exactly how this goes. Like, it's something that I think about a lot, because I have a lot more of a family obligation that I need to make sure I'm balancing with. Part of why I only get to stream like, I think 6-10 hours a week. It's like 3-4, and that's about it. Partly because I'm trying to make sure that I'm being a good wife, I'm being a good caretaker for the rest of my family, and that just necessitates a smaller streaming schedule. I like being able to do the longer streams, but it is what it is.
And that's the thing, right? A lot of people go into content creation not really realizing, there really is demand. If you want to get to a professional level, right? Where, you're doing actual business work, right? At this point, you're literally reporting your tax info, right? And it's like when you get to that point, there's so much obligation involved. And the reality is, it's not for everyone. And I hate to say that, because, I'm a huge advocate for people doing what they love. What?
No, I don't hate saying it. If you hate saying it, I'll say it for you.
Okay. I hate saying it. It's just, but personally, it's just I'm a huge advocate for doing what you love and doing what interests you, because trust me, I have 10,000 fucking hobbies. I'm very neurospicy. And so because of that, I have many things that I have to put my attention on, but I have to pick and choose, right? And I have to think, well, if I want to make a career out of this, I'm going to have to stick to my guns, and that means I'm going to be sacrificing other things. But not everyone is capable of sacrificing these other things that I'm currently sacrificing, right? I don't talk to my family very often. I have spent time with my partner, but much less time than I could be spending with them, right? I don't really hang out with friends very often. I'm lucky if I get 1 time per week that I get to hang out with them because I've been so busy with this project. I don't get to go out much. I don't really touch grass, as they say, you know? I don't touch grass. I don't have any connections in my town currently outside of going to the local Starbucks to get my fix of coffee every single day, you know? That's my human interaction. But it's a decision that I decided that I made because my focus is on my career, right? And it's because I'm focused on entertainment and my community and my career. And so because I've made that choice, I had to give up other things. And that's just the reality of it, but it doesn't mean that everyone needs to give that up, right? You can choose to dedicate less time to this.
Yeah, I was about to say, because the trade-off on that is time. You can still do a lot of these really big projects that you want to do if you're willing to delay and give yourself less time to work on it on a day-by-day basis. My big passion project right now is the 40-minute video essay of I spent 500 hours playing just Realm Reborn on FF14 and nothing else. And it's a very, very important project to me, and I'm excited to work on it. But I'm only working on it like 4 hours a week because the best time for me to edit is early morning before my wife wakes up and I have to, start taking care of my family and meet the other obligations. It's balancing it with, being able to continue live streaming, with making sure that I'm grocery shopping, that I'm cooking dinner, that I'm doing all these other things to be responsible. And the older me, when I started streaming, was not like that at all. I was obsessively working on these because I wanted to get these done as quickly as possible because it felt like the longer it took me to work on the thing, the less value I was going to get out of it. But it just was not worth the sacrifice to me to do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a choice you have to make. That's it. And I hate, like I said, I hate saying it. I know you don't hate saying it, but I hate saying it. And because it's just like, I want to encourage people, but at the same time, I would not recommend my existence to anybody else who isn't willing to give up those things. And it is what you can do it without giving those things up, but it's just going to take more time. And that's just the reality of it, is because I'm setting a schedule for myself to where I'm doing this much stuff within a certain period of time. That means I'm giving up other things, and there's nothing I can really do about it except I could try managing my time better, but at the end of the day, I'm going to end up taking away from something, you know?
Yep.
But I don't hate it.
No.